decision is in for Tyreek Hill. Adam Schefter tells us why the NFL decided not to discipline the Chiefs receiver. Plus, Patrick Mahomes has already made NFL history. He could soon be setting records off the field. We'll explain coast to coast. Join Kerry Champion and me next on ESPN. And now back to First Take.
Breaking news from earlier today, the NFL said it cannot determine whether Chiefs wide receiver Tyreek Hill violated the league's personal conduct policy and as a result will not suspend him with regard to its recent child abuse investigation. The league left open the possibility of revisiting Hill's case should further information come through to police. And the Chiefs released the following statement. We have been informed of the decision by the National Football League that based on the available evidence, the league has not found Tyreek Hill violated the NFL's personal conduct policy. Based on the information provided to us by the league, we have decided it is appropriate for Tyreek to return to the team at the start of training camp. The club fully supports the conditions for return laid out by the league and will continue to monitor any new developments in the case. We are glad to welcome back Tyreek Hill to the team and look forward to the start of training camp next week. All right, we now welcome Will Kane into the studio. Will, we didn't get your reaction on this whole thing earlier, so why don't you go ahead and do that?
Yeah, I watched First Take a little bit earlier. I saw Ryan. I saw what you had to say. Max, I saw what you had to say. I just had a couple of points. I agree with both of your assessments on the media's reaction to these things. We want to have a quick, knee-jerk, lacking all the facts, reaction to this stuff. And I think more often than not, what needs to be said is what we're doing is trying to project our own values. We're trying to say, I'm so opposed to domestic violence, rather than searching for the truth in any of these one in particular incidences, which is our job. Our job is to look at the facts and try to find the truth. Second, I think and Max, you brought this up, we always have to ask ourselves, and the NFL has to figure out what's the burden of proof in any of these situations. We don't know. Roger Goodell doesn't know. We don't ever know when we should punish somebody or not because we don't know what the burden of proof is. And that brings me to my third thing, which is the most frustrating part for me. I just can't make sense of anything. Why does Zeke Elliott get 6 games? Kareem Hunt gets 10 games. Tyreek Hill gets 0 games. I see no through line. I can't make sense of what the NFL is doing. I can hope that they are trying to put more emphasis on burden of the proof, but I cannot figure out what the NFL is doing.
Will, I think cynically, it seems pretty clear that because you can't figure out what they're doing and you're paying close attention, they stick their finger in the wind, which way the wind is blowing, right?
Yeah.
And then what can we get away with? What's the minimum amount of punishment we can dole out or what is the punishment we can dole out that protects our bottom line? So if there's a lot of outrage about something, the punishment will generally be proportional to that. Just enough so they feel that they maximize profits. That's what it seems to be about.
I think you're right.
I just think it's ultimately really hard to ever get these things completely right. There's just no way to ultimately know what happened because when the NFL does too little, you see a big outburst and we actually see what happens. Then when they do too much, we question what's going on. And now in this situation, they don't have any proof that anything happened. So I do understand from the NFL standpoint, there's hard for them to do anything at all. There's no right answer.
But it was as well with Ezekiel Elliott. But I think the reason for the discrepancy is what Max just said. On one, there was a ton of heat and attention. On another, there is not.
But let me throw this out. If this investigation was going on now in the season, I would trust that rather than postseason, he would be sitting out. If we're not quite 100% sure, it would be the worst news for the Chiefs because he wouldn't be playing.
There are competing interests here in terms of doing the right thing, and that especially, I think, applies to people in the media because, Will, you touched on it, and I mentioned it earlier, especially with social media, there's a lot of virtue signaling. Here are the virtues that I would like to signal. This is the way in which I am virtuous according to my own, this is what I'm about, right? And so there are competing interests in cases like this. On the one hand, and Ryan, you brought this up, people want to express for very good reason that they are opposed to domestic violence, right? And that is a very important thing to express. And if you express something about, well, we haven't heard all the facts yet, et cetera, it seems to dilute that message. And on the other hand, a very important principle is due process and the presumption of innocence and actually getting the decision right and looking at the facts. And those two are the competing interests in these situations often, but because when the story breaks, the facts are not always available to everyone, certainly not all the facts, the much easier thing to do is to virtue signal.
Well, look, the NFL has said that it will reopen this investigation should new information come to light. But right now, let's transition to the on-the-field action with Hill. So what does his presence mean now that he's back on the field for the Chiefs this season?
Well, I heard both of you guys. You guys are ready to put him in the Super Bowl. And I've got. Well, let's say it this way. I've got two teams, and one, it would be an egregious error.
Cowboys one of them? Cowboys one of them?
No, we're going to relegate this to the AFC. Until they move to the AFC, Ryan, I'll focus on the teams over there. The New England Patriots, obviously, continue to be the favorites. You should not ever pick against the Patriots.
No Gronk?
Until it's over. I don't care how many names you run out. If you come anywhere short of Tom Brady, they're still the favorites. You can try. You can try to be first to the party, but I've said several times on the New England Patriots and Tom Brady, I'm going to be last. I got the lights. Y'all go ahead and head out. I'll get the lights. Last one at the Patriots party. However, I said two teams, right? So before you put Tyreek Hill back on the field and you put the Chiefs into the Super Bowl, I'm telling you the team to watch. It will be the Indianapolis Colts this year. I believe rather than the Chiefs, they're going to be the biggest challenger to the Patriots this season.
Yes,
Luck did not play very well in that final playoff game, but I hear you. Look, of course the Patriots have to be there, but here's the thing about the Chiefs. The real reason that you don't just say, okay, Chiefs should be the odds-on favorites in the AFC is because unlike really no other team other than the Patriots is there every single season. So the fact that the Chiefs got as far as they did last year almost makes you think, well, they'd kind of be lucky. Some bounces have to go their way to get back to that position this year. Only the Patriots do that every single year. However, I'll remind people, Andy Reid did it in Philadelphia as coach. And like Bill Belichick, he's adapted to the times. He hasn't been, McCarthy stuck in his ways back then and can't adapt. Reid has adapted, and his offense is very modern. And the Chiefs, I will remind everyone, they lost Kareem Hunt, but they didn't have him against the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. And I will also remind everyone, Tom Brady lost that game with an interception at the end of the game. It got a pre-snap penalty, a whistle, negated that. And then, of course, you give the Patriots a second chance. They go on to win, but they really lost the game before they won the game. So what do we have here? Still no Kareem Hunt, but they have Tyreek Hill back. They've added to the defense. Patrick Mahomes is a year more experienced coming off an MVP season. They kind of beat the Patriots last year in the AFC Championship game. Andy Reid's the coach. He gets there consistently when he has the squad. I think the Chiefs have to be favorites.
Let me make a very Max Kellerian, is that a word? Max Kellermanian argument to you.
Yes.
Max Kellermanian argument to you, okay? Yes. Let's set aside the specifics for a moment and let's focus on some broad statistical averages. You'd like to do that, almost actuarial tables. When a team has the kind of offensive explosion that the Kansas City Chiefs did a year ago, most of the time they take a step back the next year. It's just they recede to a little bit more of the mean. They come back. It doesn't mean they're going to be bad or they're going to be average, but you just can't continue to have that kind of high-flying offense year in and year out. The league adjusts. The league catches up. Max, I believe in Patrick Mahomes just like you do. This is one of the few athletes in the league that is not on the Cowboys that I have real fandom and envy of. It's Giannis in the NBA. It's Patrick Mahomes in the NFL.
Likewise.
But I do know. Oh, yeah, likewise? But I do realize that the Chiefs' offense, if it does take a step back, if it does bend to those actuarial tables, the Chiefs' defense isn't there to pick up the slack.
Now, hold on, guys. In terms of the Colts, I really like them. They're a throwback team. They're physical. They learn how to protect Andrew Luck, and they can get down and dirty in the trenches. But what they aren't is explosive. That's what the Chiefs bring to the table. And if we had any questions about the Chiefs last year, one, we'll say experience. We give that to Tom Brady. Patrick Mahomes had not been there. Well, guess what? He's seen Tom Brady 2 times last season and had an opportunity to grow. The one thing that Big Belichick and the Patriots did is they went after Mahomes. They didn't sit back. They didn't give that cushion to the wide receivers, and they attacked them. Well, hey, what were the mistakes? Didn't have a run game. Didn't have a defense. Kareem Hunt goes out. Guess what? There are no more mistakes for the Chiefs. They are the favorites. They've been there. He's had a dance with Brady. And guess what? There's no Gronkowski. No guarantee that he's going to have that elite receiver. So, guys, I have no idea how you look at the Chiefs and do not picture this team in the Super Bowl now that Tyreek Hill is playing and they've shored up that run game and defense.
I would also say that the pitch of the talent of the skills positions on offense for the Chiefs is so high that I don't know that they'll necessarily be regression to the mean. You know, I think that they can approximate that kind of production year in and year out through the prime of Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce.
All right, well, we just mentioned the Colts in that conversation, so let's switch gears a little bit. But we're going to talk about Peyton Manning, also Tony Romo. They both have had success in their post-football careers, which includes broadcasting. Romo's an NFL analyst for CBS. Peyton with his Peyton's Places as part of ESPN Plus. In an interview with Yahoo Sports talking about transitioning out of football, Manning had this to say about his fellow former QB. All right, he said, I saw where Tony Romo said that he always knew that he wanted to be a broadcaster. Well, I always knew I wanted to be a football player. That's all I knew. I was all in on that job. I didn't think about anything else while I was playing. And I think that's a good way to be. I think you've got to be all in on what you're doing. Then Romo, he was a guest on 105.3 The Fan's Ben and Skin show and responded yesterday by saying, I didn't start thinking about being a broadcaster until I was contemplating retirement. And so at that point, you're going to start thinking about your next stage. All right, back and forth. Are these comments from Peyton Manning about Romo fair or are they foul?
They're fair. Peyton Manning is the best regular season football player who ever lived. Overall, no, because he got significantly worse under pressure in the playoffs throughout his career. But he's the best regular season football player who ever lived. He is, if he is talking about what made him that way and what separated him, that's fair. Now, Tony Romo could say, look, I wasn't the anointed one since birth in football. And so I had a kind of tougher road to get there. Don't tell me about internal motivation and concentration and such. Okay, Romo's also a crazy good athlete. And I would say it would be sort of like, maybe it lacks a little bit of professional courtesy, but it'd be, look, you know what the odds are that Peyton Manning will ever be the broadcaster that Tony Romo is? Slim. And if he did, and Romo made some critique of Peyton Manning, hey, what do you think of your these comments that Peyton Manning made about broadcasting? And Romo pointed one or two things out that he felt, that he does himself that maybe separates him. That'd be fair too.
Here's the reality, man. When I look at this, I have to throw a big if, because when I think of Peyton Manning, he's the model citizen. And I believe when he made these statements, he made these talking about himself. But if he was talking about Tony Romo, he's absolutely wrong. This is something you cannot do. And it's a horrible notion that we give to our fellow athletes, is that the only thing that you have to think about is playing ball, playing basketball, playing football. I know that level of focus and what it takes. But ultimately, there's a life beyond basketball, football, whatever sport you play. And 99% of us will never be Peyton Manning. We'll never have those opportunities. So we have to figure out what life is like beyond basketball, beyond football, beyond whatever our sport is. And apparently, I had a blessing. What was my big blessing? During the lockout, I had an opportunity to sit back and go, man, Ryan, you're 7 feet tall, but one day you are going to be a regular guy. You're going to have to get a job. And that's when I took a focus and said, hey, man, I want to do broadcasting. I want to talk about this. I want this to be something that I can do. So outside of playing your actual sport, there is nothing wrong, athletes, and hear me, with actually focusing on something beyond your profession.
And now look at you, telling 7 foot tall stories on television. 7 foot tall tales, 7 foot tall opinions on television.
Good turn of a phrase.
You're doing a good job, Brian. I think it's can I talk like the kids for a second? I think it's a weird flex by Peyton. It's just like, why do you have to do this on Tony Romo? I really appreciate who Peyton Manning was. I think he was 100% all in. But you know what else I think? I think Tony Romo was as well. This idea that you don't have the ability to hold two thoughts in your mind at the same time is kind of ridiculous. It's like when athletes like Kevin Durant, for example, was asked, where are you going to play next year? And he would say, I haven't thought about it. I don't think about hypotheticals. I'm only focused on the moment. Okay, I get it. You're all in on the Warriors. You're all in on the moment. And I believe you. But when you're taking a bath or something, you don't think about Brooklyn? When you're in the shower or you're, whatever it is, wherever you do your quiet time, Brooklyn doesn't pop into your head? Please, man. So Tony Romo, when he wasn't in the film room, when he wasn't practicing, might have had a thought that he wanted to broadcast one day. Please, Peyton. Maybe Peyton didn't. Maybe Peyton's like, because I will tell you, he hadn't seemed to pick a post-career career yet. We all wondered, is it going to be politician, broadcaster? Is it going to be GM? I don't know. He hadn't picked. So maybe that's the price of being all in, But I think most guys can hold two thoughts in their head at the same time.
And I would also say, I think it's fair what he said, even if it comes off as a bit rude in terms of professional courtesy. I would also say Tom Brady may say something like, if if Peyton Manning made a statement years from now and Tom Brady made some statement that really related to why Peyton Manning didn't have better success in the playoffs, that would be fair too.
Well, look at this. The one thing we have to apply by guys like LeBron James, and obviously you have to focus on your craft. It's the reason that you get opportunities on television and business because of what you've done in athletics. That's the reality. LeBron James has pushed the notion we're more than athletes. We're just not these dumb jocks that go out and play a sport and just beat each other up. We are individuals. We are intelligent. We are smart. So I hope that Tom Brady is not Peyton Manning's not putting this notion that that's all that you can do. Because guess what? There's one Peyton Manning, one guy who just can do whatever he wants after football, after playing.
And there's also only one Kevin Durant. We asked the Twitterverse a question today. We said, will Kevin Durant actually be a better player when he returns? 90% of people, 80% of people said yes, he will be a better player when he comes back.
Thanks, Max.
Wow.
Thanks, Max. Thanks, people. You hear that, Max?
Might have his best moments when he comes back,
sorry.
but he won't be the same player.
The statistics are skewed. It's 80%
I was going to say,
Guys, that's
he did pop his Achilles. I mean, you don't really come back at 110%.
No, but you know what? Guess who's going to be back on Monday? Stephen A. Smith. We are ready for some good debates. We'll see you next time. Coast to Coast is